Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Tyree from On the Hot Podcast. Today, this will be the Combat Series episode number 73 for you guys today. Of course, this episode is going to be coming out on all four of our platforms: our Instagram account, our Facebook account, our YouTube account, and our Apple Podcast account. So let's go ahead and dive into the first segment of the Combat Series this week. I'll be sharing my fight prediction in the world of boxing between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. So, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson will be having a professional boxing fight. The time has now come. This will be 8 rounds. The 8 rounds are all 2-minute rounds for this professional boxing fight taking place at the heavyweight division. There will be no headgear in this fight. Both fighters will be wearing 14-ounce gloves, and this fight will be taking place in Jerry's World in Dallas, Texas, at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So, most valuable promotions, Jake Paul and his team have put together a pretty solid card. Well, I'll be getting into that later on in the episode, but they put a pretty solid card together. This should be a spectacle on Netflix Friday night in combat sports. So, these are my following storylines heading into this fight. Now, can Jake Paul do the unthinkable to some and beat Mike Tyson? Mike Tyson is one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. Former undisputed champion, a Hall of Famer. Mike Tyson has done it all in the sport of boxing. Say what you want, but Jake Paul is a smart businessman. Jake Paul is not going to get himself into danger in the sport of boxing. If you guys have followed Jake Paul's entire career, when he first had his first professional fight, all the way up until now, he has played it safe as a smart businessman. And he's not going to get in the ring with somebody that could put him in danger or legit hurt his stock. And we seen that when he got in the ring against Tommy Fury nearly 2 years ago. He fought a decent fighter with a decent boxing background, with his brother being Tyson Fury, one of the greatest heavyweights that this generation has seen. He lost that fight to somebody in his age range and that has decent boxing skills. So Jake Paul, since the loss, has played it safe. He's been remaining in the ring with older guys that have combat sports backgrounds of Anderson Silva's, Nate Diaz's of the world. Mike Tyson is a former boxer in his own right, one of the greatest of all time. But he is 58 years of age. So Jake Paul is playing it out, but we're still going to see if he could go in there and defeat one of the greatest of all time and Mike Tyson in a professional boxing fight. But something I want to point out to you guys, we got to give Jake Paul his flowers, because what him and his brother Logan Paul, what they have done for the landscape of the world has been crazy. I mean, these are two kids coming from Ohio. They elevated themselves in the world for being content creators, YouTube stars, and they put their foot and their stamp in the world. They're millionaires. Jake Paul is doing his thing in boxing. Logan Paul is doing his thing. He was doing his thing in boxing, but now he's one of the best wrestlers that the WWE truly has to offer. And after Friday night, Jake Paul and Logan Paul can say they've been in the ring, in a boxing ring, with some of the greatest of all time, whether it's professional or an exhibition, with Jake Paul being in the ring with Mike Tyson and Logan Paul being in an exhibition fight with Floyd Mayweather. Hey, that's an accomplishment in its own right, and these two kids are living their best dreams as millionaires in the world. So that's why I find myself being fans of both the Paul brothers for what they've done, but it's not about the Paul brothers, it's about the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. So let's get back on track here. Can Mike Tyson prove that age is just a number? Mike Tyson is 58 years of age. He's still proving that he could still go in the boxing ring. Can he find a way to deliver a knockout victory heard around the world against a younger fighter in Jake Paul? And that leads me to the final storyline. Can Mike Tyson end Jake Paul once and for all in the sport of boxing? Because if you guys remember, back in 2020, on Mike Tyson's card, when Mike Tyson had an exhibition fight against Roy Jones, on that card is where you really seen Jake Paul's boxing career really go to the next level. When Jake Paul knocked out former NBA player Nate Robinson. This all happened on Mike Tyson's card back in 2020. The reason why Jake Paul finds himself in the position that he's in today is because Mike Tyson gave him an opportunity of a lifetime being on his card. So Mike Tyson started it all for Jake Paul, and he has the chance to end it all for Jake Paul this Friday in the sport of boxing. But let's get into the tail of the tape here. Iron Mike Tyson. Iron Mike Tyson is 50. He has 50 victories, 6 losses to his resume. He has a total of 44 knockout victories. Former undisputed heavyweight champion, boxing Hall of Famer, stands at 5'10" and has a reach advantage of 71 inches. Then you look at the problem child, Jake Paul. The problem child, Jake Paul, has 10 victories, 1 loss to his resume. He has 7 victories come away of knockout, stands at 6'1", and has a reach advantage of 76 inches. So the height and the reach advantage goes in favor of the younger boxer in Jake Paul heading into this heavyweight fight. Now, these are following game plans that I have these fighters to follow if they want to walk out of Dallas, Texas with a victory and walk away with bragging rights in this spectacle heavyweight fight. Starting off with Iron Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's got to have constant head movement. Now, at 58 years of age, Mike Tyson is nearly 60, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. But in boxing, you don't forget how to do it. It's like riding a bike. You don't forget the steps. You don't forget how to ride a bike. And that's just the same thing when you lace up a pair of gloves. And when you're one of the greatest of all time in Mike Tyson, you don't forget how to box, no matter the age. So Mike Tyson's not going to forget those fundamentals that made him an undisputed champion in the first place. Mike Tyson's got to duck and move. Mike Tyson, when he sees Jake Paul firing shots, he's got to duck underneath and hit Jake Paul with a powerful right hand to the jaw. If he ducks underneath, hits Jake Paul with a powerful right hand to the jaw, that could rock Jake Paul and hurt Jake Paul, possibly setting up and put Mike Tyson in position to land the knockout victory. I think that's a key ingredient for this fight for him to follow as a game plan. Now, next, Mike Tyson's got to have constant movement and constant pressure in this ring. He's got to create the pressure. He's got to put his foot on the gas pedal. He's got to fight coming forward towards Jake Paul. He's got to establish his power early. And we all know 44 victories, you don't get that by accident. Mike Tyson is one of the most powerful heavyweights in boxing history. So if Mike Tyson is making his pressuring Jake Paul with constant pressure, fighting coming forward, and making Jake Paul respect his power, he has a good chance of winning this fight against Jake Paul. Now, last but not least, I think Mike Tyson's got to use his IQ and experience. We're talking about Jake Paul that has a total of 11 boxing fights compared to Mike Tyson, who has seen it all. He's fought guys like Evander Holyfield, Buster Douglas, Lennox Lewis. He's fought some of the greatest heavyweights of all time. So if Mike Tyson can use his boxing experience, stay calm, stay cool, stay collected, and basically collect data on Jake Paul as this fight goes on, he has a good chance of winning this fight against Jake Paul and his return back to a professional boxing fight in nearly 20 years. Now, for the problem child, Jake Paul. Jake Paul's got to land the jab. Now, Jake Paul, as I've been following his career, his boxing career, there's one thing that has been getting better each and every single time he steps foot in a boxing ring, and that's his stiff jab. His stiff jab that he hits when his opponents, when it's coming right down the middle, that stiff jab makes his opponents respect his power. And that stiff jab that Jake Paul hits home to, landing on his opponents, when he gets that stiff jab going, that sets up shot for Jake Paul to land the 1-2 combinations. And against an older fighter in Mike Tyson that's going to have a slower reaction time, hitting that stiff jab, coming down the pipe, coming down the middle, and hitting the 1-2 combinations, that could be a world of success for Jake Paul in his own right. Now, nextly, Jake Paul's got to be on time landing. He's got to be on time landing punches because Jake Paul should be the faster fighter in this fight against an aging Mike Tyson that's nearly 60 years of age. Now, if Jake Paul has mixed opportunities or makes mistakes, leaving his hand down and lunging forward during his punches, Jake Paul likes to do that. He keeps his head up, or he keeps his head down, or how do I say? Yeah, he has his head down while he's lunging, going forward, lunging to punch his opponent, and that could get Jake Paul in a world of trouble because that's where someone like Tommy Fury capitalized when they fought. Jake Paul had his head up when he was punching forward, and you're not having a reaction time to be alert defensively. That could get Jake Paul in a world of trouble. So I think that's going to be important to be on top of in this fight against Mike Tyson that's seen it all, and he will capitalize on that. So Jake Paul's got to be alert doing that. And last but not least, Jake Paul's got to weather this early storm against Mike Tyson. Now, Mike Tyson's going to be coming in hot. He's going to be coming in like a firecracker on the 4th of July night. I mean, he's got to be able to weather the early storm. And if Jake Paul can handle and weather the early storm, I think the longer the fight goes on, I think you have to favor Jake Paul. Jake Paul that's been in the boxing ring, been in and out of rounds in the last few years. Jake Paul we all know, if your legs are not underneath you in combat sports, that's a world of trouble. And whether you're talking about MMA or boxing, that leads you in a world of trouble. So Jake Paul has that advantage of having the cardiovascular endurance, going in and out of rounds over the last few years. Mike Tyson has not had a professional fight since 2005. So the longer the fight goes on, the more I have to favor Jake Paul. And if he can weather that early storm where Mike Tyson's going to be trying to get him out of there in the first 2 rounds, he has a good chance of winning this fight. But with that being said, I'm going to go with Jake Paul to defeat Mike Tyson by split decision in the world of boxing this Friday. Now, this is going to be a 50-50 fight here. But I can't say Jake Paul's going to knock out Mike Tyson because Jake Paul's been in there with some older guys that have some combat sports background, MMA guys of Anderson Silva and Nate Diaz, and he wasn't capable of knocking out those guys. So I don't think he's going to be capable of knocking out Mike Tyson. But I do believe he can put Mike Tyson on his highlight reel and send him to the canvas at least once, landing a knockdown. But if Mike Tyson was 5 to 10 years younger, I would obviously say that Mike Tyson would win this fight and put away Jake Paul pretty early. But being 58 years of age and not being in a professional fight since 2005, that's 19 years, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. And you got to have your legs underneath you in combat sports. Jake Paul has been, regardless of the opponents or not, he's been in the ring, in and out of constant rounds in the last few years of the sport of boxing. The only rounds that Mike Tyson has been a part of since the 2020s was his exhibition against Roy Jones a few years ago. So Jake Paul, someone that's taking the sport seriously, I think Jake Paul is going to be prepared for Mike Tyson. I think Jake Paul is going to have advantages in this fight if he can weather the early storm. I think the longer the fight goes on, it favors Jake Paul. I think Jake Paul is going to have a lot of success landing that stiff jab, the stiff jab that he's been developing over the last few years. That will open up the door for him to land the 1-2 combinations, land the overhand right. And I think he's going to have a split decision victory against Iron Mike Tyson this Friday in the sport of boxing. So that is my Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight prediction.